Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to get going with Pipsqueak AI. At this point you should have already downloaded and installed both Fiji and Pipsqueak, and you should have already registered your username and license. We're going to look at how to analyze both parvalbumin and WFA in single label analysis mode. This video only looks at how to do single label analysis, but Pipsqueak is capable of both double and triple label analysis, which we'll walk through in another video.
You can cruise through settings if you'd like. Nothing much has changed. One thing that is important to note is that there is no difference in how the background is subtracted. So if you are doing analysis on one of the previous versions of Pipsqueak, this should produce identical results, assuming that you chose identical ROIs or regions of interest. So nothing here has really changed. So let's go ahead and do an analysis. I'll choose a single label analysis, and it's opened up a very similar window to what I'm used to help me find the image that I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm just gonna find some images we have laying around, and I think this is gonna be a WFA image, so let's try it out. Aha, that looks great. Again, this gives you an option to choose a subject ID if you want. Helps out with statistics later on. I'm not going to in this case. A new feature in Pipsqueak now is that you can choose a sub-region for analysis. I know this is something that a lot of you have been asking for a long time, so here it is finally. Let's give it a go. So in this case, I actually probably want most of the image anyway, so I'm just going to circle that and then press T, or I'll show you up here on the ROI manager. I'm going to add it to the ROI manager. And what that's going to do is keep everything inside of the ROI and remove everything outside of it. So in this case, it is most of the image. Press OK, and aha, you see that it's removed everything outside. That's great. The other thing that you can now do is choose the area that you want to use for your background subtraction. Obviously, in this case, most of the perimeter around my image is now black, so that's not great. So I'm going to choose manually select an ROI for background, and that gives me an option to draw another ROI or maybe a couple ROIs. And so here I'm just kind of looking for spaces that don't have my marker in it. So let's go with that. I'm going to say OK. And again, I'm pressing T every time I draw one of these ROIs. Alternatively, you can do that by pressing the Add button on the ROI manager, but I think this is easier. So T every time I draw a circle, press OK. And this is all going to look fairly similar. So it's gone through and it's subtracted out the background. I've got my, my hopefully just positive signal image here. And now what Pipsqueak is going to ask you to do is to choose the type of stain that you're looking at. So you'll see that currently we're only doing CFOS, parvalbumin, and WFA. We have a whole lot more models that are on their way. We're just trying to get this out as fast as we can so you guys can give it a go. I'm choosing WFA because that's what I've got here. And I've got a couple options for detection sensitivity and my threshold for overlapping ROIs. Basically, what these two selections are going to do is determine how sensitive our AI is in finding your cells and how aggressive it is at deleting any overlapping ROIs. So we'll see if we can find an example of that here. I think for WFA, it's pretty good to start at about halfway through, so 25, when we can range from 1 to 50. So let's go with 25. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of overlap here, but we'll just leave our overlapping ROIs at about 50 also. Press OK. And it's going to take just a second because what it's doing is it's actually calling up our server out in the cloud to make these predictions. And boom, it's already sent them back. And so what I'm really excited about with how our AI is performing, and hopefully you find this too, is that it's doing a really good job of detecting small cells. It's detecting cells that are very close to each other, and it's not doing a whole lot of overlapping or misidentification. There are a number of things that you can do in this window now, in this menu window. You could rerun if you'd like with maybe different settings. You can modify your ROIs. You can load a previous ROI set, and this is handy if you've already done an analysis and you need to go back and maybe change something up or just try it again. And then finally, we can say that we're all done with analysis and we're ready to move forward. Just to show how it runs, let's rerun the detection maybe with slightly more sensitive settings here and see if anything else comes up. Alternatively, we can go extremely high, and what you'll see is the AI start to enter the matrix. So let's go a little high. Let's go 30. So yeah, it still did a pretty good job. And one of the things that you'll notice is that I'm changing my ROIs to be squares versus circles. So that was one of the first things that it did when these popped up. Let's go a little bit lower now and see what that does. So yeah, now we're starting to miss some of those cells that I would want. So again, I'm going to set it at 25 because I think that was pretty good. Making sure that I click that. And all right, so yeah, I'm going to modify these ROIs by hand just because I think that maybe there are 2 cells, not 3 cells here. So I'm going to get rid of that guy, maybe bump this one over just a touch. Same thing here. I think there are probably 2 cells. Maybe that's one over there. And so I'll just decrease the size of that one slightly and increase the size of that one. So cool, I like that. Let's move forward. And I'm just going to say complete. And voila. So what it's done here is very similar to what you've seen it do in the past. It's measuring all of your ROIs and spit back this, this text output that you can import into Excel. So with that, let's move over to Windows and we can try out some Parve albumin staining there. Okay, so we've got Fiji open here, and what you'll notice is that Pipsqueak shows up in the menu bar, just a little different for Windows, and so we can click on that there. And when this comes up, we'll see the same registration screen that we saw on the Mac if you haven't already done that. I've already done it for my Windows machine, so we can move forward. So let's go ahead and do a Parve albumin analysis. One of the first things that I like to do for Parve is to change the ROI type. We tend to use circular ROIs for Parve, but that's up to you. So we can go back into single label. Here I'm going to choose one of my images. I think this guy might be pretty cool. And one thing to notice with this is, actually let's go over here and do this one, is that this is a JPEG image. And so this is a little bit different than previous versions of Pipsqueak. We can do more than just TIFFs. We can do JPEGs, PNGs, just about anything that Fiji will open. So let's go forward with it. I'm not going to limit anything here, and we'll just use the automatic grid of ROIs that we're all used to seeing. So here we'll open up Parve albumin. I'm going to leave the settings pretty similar. Maybe let's take sensitivity up to 30, and let's take our overlapping back down to 40. That seemed to work pretty well for WFA. So again, it's sending it up to the server, and what we'll get back here in just a second is the predictions placed right onto the window. Voila. So I think that looks, that looks pretty good to me. Again, we can go in and modify if we'd like. I like to zoom in, check it out. I'm pretty happy with all this. I guess one thing that I can do in the settings window is decrease the size of the ROI. I think these ROIs are actually being increased similar to how we analyze WFA. So it probably would have been better to have a -1 or -2 pixel decrease on these ROIs, but no matter here. So let's say OK, and we'll finish analysis, and voila, what you'll see is your results show up here in the log window as soon as it's measured it. Boom, just like that. And so we're done. Similar to previous versions of Pipsqueak, we can find all of those files back where we were doing our analysis. So in this case, we're a couple deep there. All right, so what I've got in the folder that was created is now the image that I analyzed. We're copying the image into this folder so that you can keep track of the ones that you've already done. In addition to that, we've got all the ROIs that we just measured, the ROIs that we've saved, and so this is a handy little trick that you can use in case you want to go back and double check your images. Here I've already got the image open, so I'm just going to drag my ROIs, that zip file, up here, and if I press show all, you'll see that it's pulled them all back up. In our lab, we tend to use that as a good way to kind of audit the analysis that's been done. If there's ever a question of why somebody's measurements were different than someone else's, this is an easy way to just go see what they've measured. So that's it for installing Pipsqueak AI Beta. Really excited to hear what you think about it. We've all put a lot of hard work into this, and so we hope you like it. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or any problems that come up. I'd be happy to give a hand. Thanks much, and stay healthy.